Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jim Williams here waiting for Scott Rochelle to join us. He is en route back from a trip to Mohegan Sun. Chris King is not with us. He's celebrating an anniversary and on vacation. So I see that James and Andrew and, AJ, you're all here. Guys, what do you want to talk about? We got some baseball today. We got some upcoming football games. I'm here to help. So whatever you want to talk about, let's begin the conversation. Some interesting things. We know that Dak Prescott will not be playing for the Cowboys for a while. He injured himself in the loss to the Buccaneers the other night on Sunday Night Football. Last night, AJ, those damn Broncos, it's as you say, they didn't show up. They had problems. I think it's fair to say that Russell Wilson is, not exactly going to throw any fear into Patrick Mahomes or any of those other teams in the AFC West. That was not a good performance last night, as they only put up 16 points on Seattle. And he got booed in the process. Some interesting stuff going on in baseball, and that is that the Tampa Bay Rays, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Seattle Mariners are in an absolute and total, battle royal for that final grouping of playoff positions in the wild card of the the American League. You've got the Rays, the Jays playing each other in a doubleheader today. And then, of course, the Mariners are back in action. So one half game separates those three teams. And with 4 games left to go, you got to think that's 4 games this week left to go. You got to think it's going to be wild. Scotty, it's good to see you, my friend. I've been holding down the fort here for a few minutes, just vamping my way as I got things going to bring you on. Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the legend, Scott Rochelle.
Yep, sorry I'm a bit late. I was traveling. That part was planned. However, there was a little bit of unexpected traffic and some delays. So sorry about that, but I'm here now, and we're going to go through a couple of plays, which should be definitely a fun and interesting Tuesday card as a whole. Probably not as fun as the weekend, though.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of football action, a lot of craziness. Anything stand out to you?
Well, a couple things. I think that I was surprised. Obviously, there was a game between the Bengals and the Steelers where nobody wanted to win. It seemed like for a while. There was, I was a little surprised that the 49ers didn't play better. I think that, Trey Lance had opportunities. He didn't take advantage of them. They played on a slip and slide in Chicago, and that wasn't fun. I was impressed with the defense of the Buccaneers, with the lack of offense from the Cowboys, depending upon how you look at it. I don't ever put too much emphasis on the first week of the NFL season. I think that's really kind of especially now that they're only playing 3 preseason games. So, I take a look at it in quarters, right? You get the first quarter of the season, the first 4 games, the second 4 games, and so on. So I don't put too much stock in what happened the first game unless there's something that really didn't look too kosher. Last night, I think it's fair to say that all of the teams in the AFC West were not impressed by the Russell Wilson debut in Seattle.
I mean, that's one way to put it. I think you could just straight up say that Hackett had one of the worst professional coaching debuts in the history of sports.
Well, there's that too.
It was awful.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other way to put it, but Hackett might be a bottom 3 coach in the league, and he's coached 1 game. That's not a good sign for Denver moving forward. It was a disaster. That final drive, the red zone execution. I still can't believe teams go shotgun handoff on 3rd and goal and 4th and goal at the 1. Like, just at least, I know Wilson's a small guy.
Right.
At least bring a tight end behind center and just run a QB sneak, run a pick play, a rollout pick play at the 1. Anything but the shotgun handoff, like anything. That's like my least favorite play call probably in all of football. He did it twice. And then you had the fiasco settling for a 64-yarder, which is just asinine. But either way,
unless you have Justin Tucker,
yeah. Honestly, even with Tucker, that's still asking for a lot.
right.
But either way, Denver probably should have won the game. They didn't. It's because of bad coaching, and they just paid Hackett a decent contract. So have fun with that one. That's all I'll say.
Well, so that must leave Scott Frost an opportunity to coach in Denver now that he's gone for Nebraska.
He's got a lot of free time on his hands, but
he does.
That was another fiasco there with Nebraska. I mean, there were a lot of ranked teams that were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
They gave up 600-plus yards of offense to Georgia Southern at home.
Right.
And Georgia Southern just converted from – I kind of ranted about this yesterday, but Georgia Southern, switched up their entire offense under Clay Helton. They were the triple option team for about a decade, and they finally decided to start throwing the ball. So it's a brand new kind of upstart shotgun type offense.
Right.
You gave up 600-something total yards. Like, really? Like, I mean, that's just inexcusable, but we talked about college football yesterday in the NFL. The Denver one is really just a mind-numbingly dumb coaching decision there, and that's going to be stuck in my head for the entire season.
How about any observations from Sundays and Monday as we finish that up and get moving on to today?
Well, you were talking about a couple of the main takeaways from the negative angle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to read into for the 49ers game because they played in a monsoon.
Right.
And they didn't have an arc with them, so they kind of struggled as a result, but they still blew a double-digit lead, and eventually the Bears broke through offensively. You had the broken play, Fields rolls out, throws it across the field, and Pettis is wide open, and you had a couple of short fields from turnovers, etc. But the Niners weren't impressive, but bad weather is going to be a result of that. I still don't think Trey Lance is any good, and I'm not going to judge it solely based on what happened in week one, but I still don't think he's very good. The Cowboys, I thought would be terrible this year, and I took their win total under, and that was before Dak got hurt. I feel pretty good about it now, but I'm not surprised. They got worse at every position, and Tampa exploited them. And I'm not exactly surprised that's how the game unfolded. Besides that, Green Bay, I expected to struggle early on because they lost every weapon that they had. That was worth a damn, and they're going to have to piece together a couple of things. The Chiefs being really good did not surprise me. That was my play of the day on Sunday. Kind of segues into Arizona being bad.
Right.
I thought they would not be a good football team, and they do not look like a good football team. I don't think anything really surprised me besides just how bad the Broncos coaching was. That was really the one thing that jumped off the page. But did anything else surprise you? Because I feel like a lot of the thoughts I had about teams kind of came to fruition.
No, when you and I spoke earlier last week, and we talked a little bit about the NFL season, almost everything you said happened yesterday. I didn't have any particular. I did the Buccaneers pregame show this week, and James Canada, who joins me on the show, who played for the Buccaneers and for the Indianapolis Colts, pretty much said, he said, look, Dallas is not good. He said, because he coaches Frisco High School, which is out there in the Arlington area. And
they were bad even when Dak was healthy because they can't protect him.
Right.
And even though the defense ended up buckling down in the red zone 5 times in the first half, that means you still let the other team get near the red zone 5 separate times. So your defense is okay. Tampa has no offensive line, though, so I don't know if it's really a fair comparison. But Dallas's offense, I mean, you have CeeDee Lamb, who you can argue is not really a wide receiver 1. He's more of a wide receiver 2.
Right.
And you're throwing around Noah Brown, and you're throwing in a couple of, guys who most people don't exactly trust at the receiver position. They don't really scare anybody, and that's what I said going in. I think that they had a brutal offseason.
Yeah. And Zeke is not, Zeke.
No, he's washed.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, and they keep giving him all the touches because they're paying him so much money. I'm not going to blame Dak. People want to, even if you don't think he's an elite quarterback. The team was screwed from the get-go, and now Dak is injured. He's got a messed up finger. He's out for like 2 months. The Cowboys might be in a position where they start the year like 0-7. Like that. That is actually feasible. I think Cincinnati is going to beat them this upcoming week anyway. But they're going to beat them by 20 now, especially after losing to Pittsburgh.
Right.
It's going to get ugly. And the worst thing that could happen for the Cowboys kind of happened, which is the Cowboys lost, and you can't even blame it on bad coaching.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you can throw McCarthy under the bus or not, because I don't think that they did a poor job coaching the game, on Sunday night. It just seemed like the team had no talent.
Well, you had receivers running the wrong routes. You have, you have no blocking.
You can't, and you had another injury to your offensive line in the first quarter.
So
I can't blame McCarthy for anything that happened on Sunday night. The team just doesn't have much talent.
No, sometimes you just have to own up to what you are.
Yeah,
and that's
I owned up to it for. I bet against them twice. I have the Cowboys under and win total, and I have the Eagles to win the division. And even though Washington and New York both won, I'm not exactly impressed by either team. Nice job beating the Titans by the Giants. Good job there. Washington beat Jacksonville. We could beat Jacksonville. That doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
The Eagles concerned me because they gave up 35 points to the Lions. That was a surprise, but they won the game, and they moved the ball at will, and the Eagles' schedule is so easy. They should win the division. Right. I like my chances after week 1.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Andrew just finished painting his bathroom ceiling. In addition, he is glad he didn't miss much. Well, Andrew, we're glad you didn't miss much either. James, that Geno Smith jersey might be worth something someday, buddy.
It was in the first half. I think all the value immediately depreciated by halftime because he was not good in the second half at all, but it didn't really matter in the end. Yeah, good one for Seattle. Nice job piecing together a win where your roster is not very talented. It felt like Denver handed you the game on a platter, and I'm not sure how you can let Geno Smith go 17 for 18 in the first half, which is a whole separate can of worms if you want to just talk about bad coaching and bad preparation. But either way, good for Seattle. They're still not a good football team, but good win. Nice job on Monday night in front of the home crowd, and the atmosphere was great.
One last thing before we move on. Those jerseys hurt my eyes.
Which ones? The light neon?
The neon green jerseys. My God. That's
been the case for years. They had the color rush ones from like a couple years ago as well for like Thursday night, which were even brighter.
Yeah.
But
I have to wear sunglasses when I watch that game.
You got to turn down like the TV contrast or exactly. Got to customize the settings there. But that was kind of my takeaway. It was a very exciting Monday night game. The execution was poor on both sides, especially in the second half. You had 3 damn points in the second half combined.
Right.
But good win for Seattle. Not really much more to add.
Okay, let's move on and talk about what you got on the slides today. Bless you.
Thank you. I've been coughing a lot recently, so I'm kind of trying to. I've become an expert at the mute button, so I've been working on it.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think I've missed one time. So.
Oh, there you go.
Oops, so first of all, just for an explanation, I'm going backwards on the actual picks today because I had a soccer pick in the 4-pick parlay that starts in like 15 minutes. Since I was running late, I decided it would make more sense because of just time pressure to do the one that involved the 3:00 game first and then work backwards.
Brother, it's your turn. It's your show. Whatever you want to do.
Just explaining. So I'm working backwards for today. So just keep that in mind. But
it's your show. We'll just follow.
Cool. So starting off with the 4-pick, going to the WNBA, I have the Aces on the money line against Connecticut. The soccer play, I have Liverpool team total under 2.5 at -160 against Ajax. I have the Orioles against the Nationals, and I have the Mets first 5 -0.5 against the Cubs. So going in order, Vegas is a 4.5-point favorite. I simply put think they're the much better team. They're at home. I think they have enough firepower to get the job done there. Liverpool, I'm not sure why this team total is so high at 2.5. We saw them struggle against Napoli. They got their asses kicked in the first round of Champions League action, but they really have not been impressive even in the EPL, mostly because of midfield play. Their midfield's pretty underwhelming. And Ajax, I know it's a worse competition, but Ajax has not allowed a goal in each of its last 5 matches. They have to give up less than 3. That's a lot of goals for a very good defensive team.
Ajax, one of its, over the years, has been a counterpuncher.
Yes, they have.
They play they play a solid defense, and then they take advantage, hopefully, or they hope they do, over, when somebody makes a mistake, they counterattack and they hope to get the goal.
But they base
So,
everything off defense. So
yeah, exactly.
Liverpool, I think they might win the game. They might not. I think Ajax has some value if
Right.
you think that their manager eventually gets sacked, because right
Right.
now Jurgen Klopp's team has been a disaster at Liverpool,
Sure.
and I am curious if he's going to end up being fired. So we'll see what happens. I think Ajax might have value at 4-1, maybe even a draw
Mhm.
if you want to go for a double chance there. But team total of 2.5 against a solid defensive team, and Liverpool's had its own struggles. I think
Right.
that number's too high, so I'm going to go with the under 2.5 goals there. Then for the
Mhm.
Orioles against the Nationals, you have Kramer on the mound, who I like. The Nationals are using Abbott. Is it
Mhm.
Abbott on the mound, or
It's
am I?
Abbott. It
It is
was
Abbott. That's what I
Abbott,
thought. Yeah.
unless they changed it.
So I'm pretty sure it was Abbott, and Abbott is, let's just say, not good. His numbers are okay, but I do think the Orioles are the better team. They have
Mhm.
kind of fallen back down to earth. It seems like the playoff hopes are kind of dead after they ended up losing 2 out of 3 to Boston over the course of the weekend. But I do like them in the spot. Washington, we know, is not very good. They can't pitch, and I think
Right.
that Baltimore should fare well in that matchup. And last but not least, the Mets' first 5 -0.5. You have DeGrom on the mound against
I
Samson.
think that's fair.
You're assuming DeGrom is going to give up 1-run tops. I think
Yeah.
Samson struggles here. The wind's blowing out to right field, and I
Mhm.
do think that you're going to see Samson give up more home runs, or be at risk to give up more home runs than
Mhm.
DeGrom. So I'll go with the Mets' first 5 -0.5 at -210. And if you want to do the Orioles money line in that parlay, it's plus 485. If you want to do the run line at plus 105, that 4-pick pays out at plus 620.
Mhm. All right, cool. All right, so let's move on to the two-team parlay.
Yep. So moving on to the 2 for the money. Starting off with I have 2 separate WNBA plays in the parlays. One of
Mhm.
them is actually overlapping with the 4-pick. But starting off with the first 2-teamer, it's going to be the Connecticut Sun team total under 79.5 at the Aces. Connecticut, even though they are in the finals, they've really not been amazing offensively throughout the
Mhm.
playoffs. They've really been a defensive-oriented team. And they did
Mhm.
have the one offensive outburst in Game 4 against Chicago, where they scored 104 points at home. But if
Right.
you're looking at Connecticut's performances on the road offensively in the playoffs, they really have not been good. To go through the performances on the road, they scored 73 against Dallas, scored
Mhm.
68 against Chicago, scored 77 against Chicago, and scored 72 against Chicago in Game 5, scored 64 in Game 1 against the Aces. So Connecticut has scored less than 78 points in
Mhm.
every road game this postseason, and their team total 79.5. That's a little too high for me. I'll go with the under, and I'll go with the Astros against the Tigers as the second leg there. We know Houston's the much better team. They won by shutout because Valdez was amazing once again yesterday. But you're looking at who's pitching for Houston, and they have the youngster on the mound who gave up no runs in his first time out. I
Mhm.
think that Brown's a pretty good pitcher. Hutchinson is not. There's a reason why he's 2-7 on
Right.
the season win and loss record. And Houston's also 5-0 against Detroit this season. So I
Mhm.
do think Houston should win this game by margin. Detroit can't hit. I'll take the Astros money line or on the run line against the
Mhm.
Tigers. And for the second 2-teamer, kind of correlated to the first one, I don't think Connecticut's going to score. So I'm going to take the Aces on the money line again. I think they'll get the job done there behind the home crowd, which has been very solid for them in this playoff
Mhm.
run. And I'm going to go with the Dodgers and Diamondbacks first 5 team total under 4. You have
Mhm.
Kershaw against Kelly. I don't see many opportunities for either team. I think 4 is a little bit high. I think you'll probably see maybe a 2-1 score after 5, but that's going to be the second pick. And for the odds, if you go with Houston money line, it pays out at plus 181. If you go
Mhm.
with Houston run line, it pays out at plus 232. And for the second parlay, there is no run line, there is no money line, or there is a money line with the Aces. So that pays out at plus 165.
Okay, cool. Um, we got a couple quick questions here. We're going to run by you. And that's James wants to know, Scott, what do you think about Tulane? Are they better, um, than what people think? And should he take the points this week?
Well, Tulane's tricky because they've played 2 opponents, but I don't know if you can count them as actual opponents because they played UMass and Alcorn State.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit of an interesting spot for Tulane because it's a massive step up in competition. And
Right.
Kansas State looked really good against Missouri. over the weekend. I think I'm staying away from that game just because Kansas State has been good against Missouri. I don't know how good Missouri's going to be. Probably not great. But
Right.
Missouri's been very good, or they were good in week 1 against Louisiana Tech. Kansas
Right.
State's at home. I don't really know what to think of Tulane because they really haven't played anybody.
Right.
Having said that, Kansas State does have a trip to Norman on deck against Oklahoma. So I guess I'm leaning to Tulane by default
Right.
because I do think Kansas State is already looking ahead to Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I'm looking at it. Do I think Tulane's better than what people think? I don't know because they haven't played anybody worth a damn. But
Right.
based on scheduling spot, the game means a lot more to Tulane than it does to Kansas State because Kansas State has Oklahoma up next. So
Right.
if I was going to pick a side, I would lean to the 15, expecting Kansas State to already be somewhat game planning for Oklahoma the following week.
Right. Here's Andrew. He took DeGrom, and then there's a in honor of our buddy Allie Burns. He went Nerfy on it. So there's that. So yeah, one of the things you're talking about Kansas State. What did you think of Kansas beating West Virginia on the road?
I think Leopold's a hell of a coach.
Yeah, that was really a surprise.
Yeah, I don't know how big of a surprise. I think the score was the surprise. I didn't expect to see a track meet. I thought you were going to see a more competitive but lower scoring game there. Good for Kansas, man. I mean, they got a lot. They got a lot of talented athletes, and we were curious if they were going to translate. Leopold got some of his new guys in after last year, and Kansas is 2-0 for the first time since I don't know World War II. It's been a long time. The year they made the dream run to a New Year's Six bowl there with I forgot who the coach was at the time.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time, but they had the one fluky year in like 2007. And that was basically it. So good for Kansas. A terrible start for West Virginia to start the season, but yeah, good for them. I'm happy for Leopold. I thought he was very good. I thought he did a very good job at Buffalo, and it's not a coincidence that Kansas is playing well and Buffalo stinks. It's because Leopold's the common denominator.
Right. Let's talk real quick about. I was talking about this before we got started, and that was the crazy week left. You got 4 games in 3 days between the Rays and the Jays,
and they tried to kill each other yesterday.
Right, and exactly, literally, and the Mariners. That's their half game between those 3 teams as they duke it out for slotting, if nothing else, in the NFC, NFC AL, in the AL wild card.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts on that series coming up? I mean, we got 1 game started, the Rays and the Jays, and they'll play another tonight. Then they'll play 2 more on Wednesday and Thursday. So it's going to be a crazy and wild week for those 2 teams. And the Mariners just keep chugging along.
Yeah, Mariners are cooking. They had the thrilling comeback win against Jansen over the weekend. But as a whole, Tampa and Toronto seem like they're pretty evenly matched. We saw Toronto squeeze out a 3-2 win after that Bichette home run yesterday.
Right.
And then Tampa's up 4-0 today. I can't say I'm surprised when Toronto's throwing out Merriweather and Mitch White as your pitching combination. That's not good. So I'm not surprised Tampa jumped on him early. As a Yankees fan, I hope they kill each other, and that's what we're getting, because the Yankees had a very, very nice weekend series win against Tampa, scoring double-digit runs in the last 2 games of that series. So the Yankees created some separation, and that's big for them. They have a series coming up against Boston over the next couple of days. But my takeaways, these teams for me seem pretty even. Tampa on paper is significantly worse, but that doesn't matter because Tampa finds ways to win games anyway. I am a little bit concerned, though, because of how bad the pitching was over the course of the weekend against the Yankees. And with McClanahan out, I don't know how long the duct tape's going to last on the wound, because it seems like they're really grasping at straws to piece together any back end of the rotation. I'm not sure if that's going to stay for that much longer.
It's funny. Steve Kinsella, who covers the Rays for Sports Florida, I talked to him the other day, and he said that every day he goes into the locker room, there's a number 70 something with a
Yeah.
guy who just wheels in with his
They got a
you know,
suitcase and, they're
with his
unpacking. Yeah.
cherry bag in, and he has no idea. These guys come in from Durham on the shuttle, and we'll have to see what happens there. But as you say, they as good as the Jays are on paper, they should be beating the little daylights out of the Rays. They're not, and the Mariners just keep slogging along, and it's good for them because they have a much easier route to take to get to the playoffs than do either the Jays and the Rays.
Yeah, definitely true.
So, you know what? Let's talk for a second about people that sponsor our show because they're sponsors, and that's why we want to talk about them. Our sponsors is Caesar Sportsbook. They have a great deal for first-time users. You get up to $1,250 free bet insurance by downloading the app. Now, this is for first-time users only, okay? First-time users only. $1,250 free bet insurance. Scott, if you had free bet insurance, what would you do? What would you think is a smart play to do when you have betting insurance, whether it's $1,250 like our buddies at Caesars has, or less?
Are you talking about a specific play or like the strategy I would use behind
Yeah,
picking something?
exactly. It's a strategy. When you're getting some free money, what do you think is the best strategy?
So for me, I have used risk-free bets before. If
Mm-hmm.
there's a play that I really, really like, first of all, it's always going to be a straight bet. There's no way
Okay.
I'm going to parlay it. You can if you want to, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a monumental waste of money based on the probability of you actually hitting the parlay. I'd
Sure.
rather just do a straight bet.
Mm-hmm.
So I did this a couple of months ago. There was a basketball game I liked involving like the Hornets and the Pelicans. The Pelicans were benching everybody, and I picked the
Mm-hmm.
Hornets, and they won by like 30. But
Okay.
I feel like if you find a great spot, you should wait for the great spot. There's no point in rushing a risk-free bet. Make sure that
Right.
you are fully confident or you really, really love the play that you're using. I
Mm-hmm.
prefer straight bets for those, or you could do a future. If you
Okay.
want to tie up some money that you have a lot of faith in, for
Mm-hmm.
example, Cowboys win total under, or maybe you
Mm-hmm.
like a team to win in a division. You watch
Right.
week 1 in the NFL, you like this team's chances. If you get a
Mm-hmm.
good price, you could jump on it. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think the main rule I would have for a free bet insurance,
Right.
don't do parlays because the odds of you actually hitting those are not worth the promo of a risk-free bet. I
Mm-hmm.
think you're better off taking your best play
Mm-hmm.
individually, whether that involves a game or a future, and
Mm-hmm.
using that for your risk-free or your free bet insurance. That's what I would do. Do you agree
Okay.
with that or no?
Well, yeah, I think that since it's free money, I personally like the concept of the future bet
Yeah.
because you're basically banking it, right?
It's a lack of patience. That's the main
Right.
reason why people don't do futures. I do futures because I do see a lot of value in the markets. And if you would have taken, for example, the Cowboys to finish in
Mm-hmm.
third or fourth place, you would
Right.
have gotten like 4-1 or 6-1 or whatever prices you would have
Right.
gotten, and you would have gotten a lot of value from it. But I made a lot of money from futures with the Warriors to win the title. I had
Mm-hmm.
that. I have done well with futures in the past. Some people just look at it and say, I don't want to be staring at tied up money for X amount of months. I'd rather have more immediate return. I think you're missing out because there's a lot of value in futures and a lot of people don't jump on it.
I personally think futures are a fantastic bet because it's you know if you know a little bit about what's going on, futures are good. I hate to use the term safety valve, but they're you know
I think they're extremely exploitable.
right, exactly,
And
and
there's one thing you'll notice game by game,
uh-huh,
odds makers adjust very quickly.
sure,
However, for future markets, because they're trying to price in predictions for the
right,
entire season,
right,
you can really get some great prices if you're ahead of the markets because a
right,
lot of markets are very, very slow to
uh-huh,
adjust the future markets
right.
compared to the individual game markets, in my experience at least.
No, well, yeah, I mean, they they're looking at something. The books adjust on the fly.
Yeah.
Okay. So that benefits you if you're a futures person because that's often the distance as opposed to what's happening right now. So to your point, it benefits you greatly by utilizing futures. So something to think about, folks, when you're betting using our friends at Caesars. Okay. Two things Scotty gave you, two very wise things. You know, if it's going to be a straight bet, for sure it's a straight bet, and the other is futures. So both
And
of
the most
those,
important thing, just the main number one rule, besides, I mentioned some logistical stuff.
right.
Don't rush it. If you have a play that you like but don't love, you don't need to bet $1,000+ or whatever for risk-free bet insurance.
Right.
Make sure that you love the play and that it's one of your favorite plays you're going to see probably in like a week or so.
Right.
Make sure that your normal confidence level, maybe most of the time in your head, you'll bet a play if you're 60% confident, maybe 70%. Try to make sure you find a play that you love, like 75+% or above,
Okay.
because those are the plays that you want to make sure. Don't get me wrong, free bet insurance is nice,
Right.
but if you're going to be betting significantly more units than you're accustomed to because of the insurance policy, you got to make sure you like the game significantly more than the average game.
Right.
So
Otherwise,
that's my main piece of advice.
Otherwise, you waste it.
Correct. That's my main piece of advice.
All right, folks, as we always say right here, most important thing to do is check each one of the states that you bet in. That's where they're going to tell you the age situation there, whether it's 18 or 21. And always, 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 what we like to tell you here is bet responsibly. And, even though Chris is not here, by all means, don't forget to check down in the link below in the show box. And that's where you're going to find all of Chris's betting information. And you're also going to find the link that we have for Caesars and our friends at Caesars Sportsbook. So in those cases, by all means, utilize them. We want you to have that opportunity. We got a bunch of quick questions here as we get out of town here. Let's see what we got here. We got one from Andrew. He had that one's kind of hard to read. I apologize.
He was talking about game one of the doubleheader. He had the first 5 under, and it barely got there, so he won.
Good for you. All right, Richie. Great going, Andrew. Okay, we're shouting out. Yeah. All right, and lastly, we got had your bet on futures applicable. All right. Well, everybody seems to agree with you, Scott. So there you go. Scott, you went up. Speaking of the Connecticut Sun.
Yeah.
You were at the home of the Connecticut Sun. How did you enjoy yourself?
I was at the Mohegan Sun. It was nice. I won basically every bet that I had, which was a good sign. Unfortunately, I made the cardinal sin of falling asleep before placing a bet. And I woke up after the game started, and then the bet obviously won after that. So, what happens every now and then, especially when your sleep schedule's as bad as mine. So, I make mistakes here and there. That one was a bit unfortunate because I would have had the Russell Westbrook longest completion over, and that got there in the first half. So, happens, can't win them all. But that was a little bit, I'd say, annoying for me personally.
So you would recommend anyone who might be planning a trip to the Mohegan Sun to, by all means, take a trip?
I thought it was a good time. Yeah, I thought it was a very nice hotel. It was a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. But the restaurants were good. The sportsbook was good. Can't really complain. It was a good time overall.
I've been there before a couple times, and the one thing that surprised me, I mean, it is big. The one thing that surprised me most was, and this is going to sound nuts, but I was pleased with the food. Because some casinos you go to, the food's not that great.
I'm saying the food was good, yeah.
Yeah, food was definitely good. One place I really think that if you haven't been, that's going to be a lot of fun. It's on the East Coast, so if you're on the East Coast here, check it out. That's Dover Downs Casino, okay? Now, Dover Downs Casino in Delaware is one of the
track there, right?
It's one of the most unique places you're going to ever get to because it is actually literally physically hooked to a NASCAR track and a horse track.
I was going to say, I'm familiar with the horse track and the NASCAR track, but I've never been to the actual place.
The NASCAR track is when you're sitting there watching, you are watching the horses run inside where the infield would be on the NASCAR track.
Cool.
So it's crazy. It is it's a fun time. It's great food, great opportunity. Lots of good people out there. Ed Suter runs the place. can't say enough good things about it. It's just a very unique place. I mean, there are a lot of casinos to go to. There are a lot of fun places to go to. That one is two things that make it fun. It's got that weirdness of the NASCAR track. It also is only a half an hour away from Ocean City Beach. So if you are inclined to go to the beach, not a bad situation. Go down to the beach, hang out, go back to Dover and have some fun up there. So that's a one that you might want to check out if you're on the East Coast.
I spent a couple hours one time in Delaware by accident or unintentionally.
So on the train or in the car or what? Just
long story short, I was traveling back from an Airbnb trip with some friends,
okay.
and my friend's car broke down in the
Oh,
middle of the highway in Delaware. So we
uh,
spent about 3 hours or so in Delaware, which were, unexpected. And I
mhm.
would say that it was nice, but I only saw a highway. So it was an experience that I
A
won't forget.
nice highway. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
a highway, and I'll never forget that experience. But that's the only time I've ever been in Delaware.
Well, it'll be sick. You'll go. You'll give it a shot.
Mm,
Um, one of the things nowadays that's good is that if you take the Amtrak, right,
yeah,
you can take the Amtrak and literally bet your way from Washington D.C. all the way to New York
yes, you can.
using different apps.
Hmm.
Once you cross from one state line to the next.
I think the Amtrak is very underrated.
Oh, I've
Very.
been using the Amtrak now for almost 30 years.
It's
I
good
love it.
stuff. I mean, I use the Long Island Railroad like back, for local travel, but
Mhm.
to get the pen if you want to go to an actual place, yeah, take the train.
Absolutely. Well, and there's you can go to Philly, you can go to
Yeah,
Delaware, you can go all
Jersey,
over.
anywhere.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Not really. Sorry I'm late, but I
Okay.
made it. So I'll be back regular time tomorrow.
All right, cool. All right, folks, have a wonderful day, and thanks, Scotty. And we will have some fun tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Please join us. Stand by. At 3 p.m. is the Power Hour, and I don't know if it's Allie or Lenny who's got the show today, but either way, it's a good result. Check them out. So until tomorrow, everybody. For Scott, Rochelle, I'm Jim Williams saying so long. We'll see you tomorrow.